From Neural Newscast, this is Buzz, tracking what's trending and why it matters.
From Neural Newscast, I'm Margaret Ellis.
And I'm Daniel Brooks. We are looking at a historic shift in U.S. trade policy following a massive Supreme Court ruling this past Friday. The High Court struck down the sweeping global tariffs that have defined the current administration's economic agenda, voting 6-3 that the president exceeded his constitutional authority.
This case really hits at the core of operational drift in the executive branch. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote for the majority that the framers did not vest any part of the taxing power in the executive branch. For years, the administration relied on the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to bypass Congress. My research into the historical record shows that while previous presidents used IEEPA for sanctions, no one had ever attempted to use it for broad, unilateral tariffs until now. Roberts pointed out that the very lack of precedent was strong evidence that the power simply didn't exist in that statute.
The immediate impact on the ground is where things get complicated. Even though the ruling came down Friday, U.S. ports are still in a state of suspended animation. U.S. Customs and Border Protection hasn't updated the Cargo System Management Service yet. That means importers are still seeing the old tariff requirements when they try to clear their goods. According to data from Vision, roughly 211,000 containers carrying over $8 billion in goods arrived between Friday and Sunday. All of those entries are still being flagged for IEEPA tariffs that the Supreme Court just declared illegal.
It creates a massive paperwork nightmare for brokers. Daniel, you mentioned the Cargo System Management Service, and we're hearing from customs brokers like Lori Mullins that they have to keep reporting these codes just to get the goods released. There's a 10-day window to pay these duties. If the systems aren't updated by then, importers have to pay the money and then file for a refund later. It's essentially forced interest-free loans to the government for taxes that shouldn't exist.
Wild. And that refund process is the $100 billion question. The Treasury has collected more than $133 billion from these import taxes since they began. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who dissented, actually noted that returning this money is going to be a mess. We are already seeing companies like Costco lining up in lower courts to demand their money back. If the government has to return $133 billion, it creates a significant hole in the federal budget that no one was planning for this morning.
The response from the White House has been incredibly sharp. President Trump called the justices disloyal to the Constitution and even referred to some as lapdogs. But he isn't backing down on the policy itself. He's already announced he'll sign an executive order to impose a new 10% global tariff under Section 122. This is a different legal mechanism that allows for tariffs during a balance of payments emergency, but it's restricted to 150 days. It feels like a tactical pivot to keep the pressure on while the administration looks for other legal avenues.
It's a temporary fix at best, Margaret. Section 122 has never been used to apply a broad global tariff like this either, so we might just be heading back to court in a few months. Meanwhile, international partners are watching closely. The European Commission is already seeking clarity on what happens next. The uncertainty is the biggest problem for urban policy and local supply chains. When the price of basic materials is in legal limbo, it's impossible for developers or city planners to finalize costs for housing or infrastructure projects.
The Supreme Court essentially told the administration that if they want to remake global trade, they have to go through Congress. It's a return to a more traditional interpretation of the separation of powers, but it comes at a moment when the executive branch has grown used to moving much faster than the legislature. We'll be watching the Treasury data closely to see how quickly those refund filings start hitting the dockets.
The scale of the corrections alone could take months to process through the automated commercial environment system. For now, the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach are the front lines of this legal battle. From Neural Newscast, I'm Daniel Brooks.
And I'm Margaret Ellis. Thank you for joining us on this Monday, February 23rd. Neural Newscast is AI-assisted, human-reviewed. View our AI transparency policy at neuralnewscast.com.
This has been Buzz on Neural Newscast, tracking what's trending and why it matters.